Since the first dinosaur footprints were discovered, these majestic creatures have captured the human imagination. Giants that ruled the earth for millions of years, dinosaurs are often seen as the ultimate symbols of power and grandeur from the prehistoric world. However, long before they appeared, other extraordinary beings had already left their mark on the planet. These ancient rulers of oceans and continents remain overshadowed by dinosaurs, but their stories are equally fascinating, and crucial to understanding how life evolved over billions of years. Imagine a world completely different from what we know today. A planet in constant transformation, where volcanoes shaped the landscape, primitive seas teemed with strange life forms, and forests were inhabited by unimaginable giants. This is the backdrop that takes us to the pre-dinosaur era, a time when life struggled to establish itself and thrive in a hostile and ever-changing environment. Here, bizarre and terrifying animals reigned supreme, from spiny marine predators to giant insects that dominated the skies. Join us on this incredible journey through Earth's past. Throughout this series, we'll uncover the secrets of the animals that ruled the planet even before dinosaurs. If you're fascinated by tales of life, epic extinctions, and evolution, subscribe now so you don't miss any details of this prehistoric adventure. This video aims to explore the journey of these remarkable creatures, from the earliest microscopic life forms to the times when primitive reptiles began taking their first steps toward terrestrial domination. It will be a voyage across geological eras marked by catastrophic events, mass extinctions, and impressive rebirths. By the end, we hope not only to better understand this pivotal period in Earth's history but also to recognize that these ancient beings played indispensable roles in shaping the modern world. Their stories, immortalized in fossils, continue to inspire and teach us about the resilience and adaptability of life. Billions of years ago, long before any creature walked the Earth, our planet was an entirely different place. Imagine a world in constant flux, where volcanoes spewed lava incessantly and primitive seas began to form. This was the stage for the beginning of life's story, a time known as the Precambrian era, which started around 4.6 billion years ago. At first, Earth was hot and hostile, but gradually it began to cool down. With this cooling came the first oceans, vast and full of mysteries. These seas harbored something extraordinary, the first forms of life. They were microscopic organisms, so small they couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Simple bacteria and microbes began colonizing this harsh environment, thriving under extreme conditions. These tiny pioneers played a crucial role. They produced oxygen through their activities. Slowly, this oxygen began filling the oceans and eventually the atmosphere. The change was gradual but impactful. Structures called stromatolites, built by photosynthetic bacteria, played a vital part in this process. They acted like natural factories, helping make the planet more habitable for future life forms. Later, during the Ediacaran period, the first multicellular organisms appeared. Though simple and strange by today's standards, these creatures marked the start of something monumental. They were nature's experiments, trying out new ways to survive and evolve. These soft-bodied organisms left faint traces, but their existence proves that life was beginning to flourish, paving the way for the wonders that would follow. This distant era was the opening chapter of life's story on Earth, a moment when even the simplest beings carried the potential for great changes in the future. After billions of years dominated by simple life forms, the planet witnessed an extraordinary transformation. Around 540 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, something incredible happened in the world's oceans, the so-called Cambrian Explosion. Suddenly, at least in geological terms, a multitude of creatures emerged, marking the dawn of a new era in the history of life. At this pivotal moment, nearly all major animal groups we know today began to appear. It was as if nature was experimenting with different designs, trying to figure out which forms would work best on the grand stage of ancient seas. These new beings were invertebrates, meaning they lacked backbones, but their diversity was staggering. There were trilobites, small arthropods resembling lobsters, which became iconic of this period. They thrived for millions of years, adapting to various conditions and evolving into diverse shapes. One of the most striking creatures of this time was a bizarre marine predator. Moving with flexibility and speed, it had two long, spiny appendages it used to capture prey. With large compound eyes, it could see clearly even in murky waters. This relentless hunter, measuring over half a meter in length, was at the top of the Cambrian food chain. Its circular mouth, lined with sharp teeth, allowed it to crush anything in its path, from tiny creatures to the hard shells of trilobites. This phase of intense creation and competition marked the first step toward the complexity of life. It was a time of experimentation, where every species fought to find its place in a newly discovered world. The winners of this evolutionary race paved the way for everything that followed. Following the explosion of life in the Cambrian, the oceans continued to be a stage for remarkable transformations. During the Ordovician period, which began around 485 million years ago, even more majestic creatures appeared. Among them stood out a peculiar group, primitive cephalopods. These animals, ancestors of modern octopuses and squids, had long conical external shells that served as natural armor. One of the most notable species could reach up to 9 meters in length, gliding through shallow waters with its tentacles in search of food. With its beak-like mouth and precise movements, this hunter dominated the seas, devouring everything from crustaceans to primitive fish. Meanwhile, in the depths, other forms of life began to diversify. Rudimentary jawless fish timidly emerged. Though small and unremarkable, they represented the beginning of a lineage that would forever alter the balance of aquatic ecosystems. However, these early vertebrates weren't yet ready to compete with the shelled giants ruling the oceans. In the Silurian period, starting around 444 million years ago, landscapes began to transform. The shores of continents, once barren, started to gain hints of green. Simple moss-like plants began colonizing wet areas, making the environment more hospitable. Simultaneously, some brave creatures began exploring dry land. Primitive arthropods, including ancestors of scorpions and centipedes, ventured out of the water, adapting to entirely new conditions. These pioneers faced extreme challenges, but their achievements paved the way for more complex life forms. This era was marked by a delicate balance between the old and the new, where ocean dominance coexisted with the first attempts at terrestrial conquest. The story of life on Earth is a fascinating mosaic of adaptations, challenges, and renewals. Long before dinosaurs ruled the planet, a series of extraordinary creatures had already written unforgettable chapters in this grand narrative. From the first microbes that transformed the atmosphere to the marine giants and colossal insects that inhabited lost worlds, each era brought innovations that shaped the future of biodiversity. These ancestral species weren't just protagonists of their time, they laid the groundwork for the life forms we know today. Their battles against adverse conditions, their ability to adapt, and their struggle for survival during cataclysmic extinctions demonstrate the impressive resilience of life. Each mass extinction, though devastating, opened space for new evolutionary opportunities. Where one species faltered, another arose to take its place. Today, as we examine fossilized remains or mentally reconstruct those ancient ecosystems, we're reminded of how fragile and resilient life can be. These creatures, which lived millions of years ago, still have much to teach us about how nature's cycles operate. They show us that the planet's balance is delicate and that environmental changes can drastically alter the course of existence. Ultimately, reflecting on these ancient times makes it clear that life is a powerful and persistent force. With every obstacle overcome, it finds ways to flourish anew. As we explore the secrets of the past, perhaps we can also learn to protect the present, ensuring that future chapters of this story continue to be written with the same grandeur we admire in the fossil record.